We are back once again here on the Cowboys Report. It is the third time since Monday we have been live, and it's the third therapy hour, which is not a good thing for the Cowboys organization. You had the disastrous Sunday showing against the Green Bay Packers, which I won't be over for a while. And then they go, we're going to keep Mike and not do anything different really at all. So we're back live again for our normally planned Thursday live show. Give me one word for how you're feeling right now. One word. TKG wants to know, can he rant? Of course you can rant. That's the whole purpose of therapy hour. You can say whatever you want. 24-hour window, and then you got to stand by the takes or whatever. Give me one word for your current state of mind right now. How you're feeling, what's up at this stage. One word and one word only for your reaction. Tired. Tired's a good one, man. I'm tired too. Not just because we've been up late a bunch of these nights in a row, but I'm tired. I'm tired. Disappointed. Tired. Disappointed. Devastated. Done. Disappointed. Broken. Optimized. Traumatized. Oof, that's a good word. A lot of dones in there. A lot of disappointeds in there. Disgusted. Embarrassed. Meh. Optimistic. I almost read off that full name there. Tej would love it. Happy, drafty. Okay, it's a good one. We have a $5 super chat from Gatlin here. I trust Dak more than any player on the team. I have to have hope he will break through and showcase his skills postseason. Don't know about McCarthy. It's a lot of not great things. Just overall, the vibes are bad with this team, and there's like very few players the vibes aren't bad for. It's not a great thing. It's not a great thing. You'll be a playoff team next year and nobody cares. No one's going to care. You can win 13, 14, 15 games next year and it's going to be okay. I want to see it in January. And that's a very tough bar, to be fair, but that's the bar. Sucks. All right, the pin poll today, and this one is much more of a 50-50 split. It is very rare we get this close of a 50-50 split. We could do yes or no with no make it 50%, and we wouldn't be able to get there. That's how it works, because I would troll. I would troll too. Do you want Dan Quinn back as defensive coordinator? Y for yes, N for no. Let's see. It's now 51% no, by the way. Jones says no. Westry says yes. Stanton Dak says no. CJ says no. Richard says no. Jose says yes. Sack says no. Michael says no. Corey says no. It's an even split. Anthony says yes. Westy says no. What's interesting is I think there's more no's in the comments as opposed to the pin poll result being at 52% right now. Or small sample size, so we'll see how it all plays out there. Do you want Dan Quinn back as the head coach? Y for yes, N for no. Come back to it. Some more supers to get to here. Chris B. What hope should I have? Regular season doesn't matter. You can use the regular season to inform how you're going to feel about their playoff chances. But you'll win 10 games, but are you going to still be able to not even just stop the run on defense? You couldn't stop offenses, period, down the stretch. We've got numbers here. It's all bad. Your defense since week 13 was just bad. Wasn't even just the run defense. It was bad. You can't run the ball, so if you start slowly on offense, you're cooked. You started slowly against Tampa last year too, and then you woke up. The difference is you weren't down 20-0 before your second down pass attempt of the game. Bad. AJ Medell, I don't know how anyone would want Quinn as head coach after this abysmal performance by his defense. No one wants him. Now we're stuck. Even if you were going to move on, your options are very limited because who wants to hitch their wagon to the hottest seat in America with a lame duck head coach? It's not great. Not great. Now, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Maybe you want to just take the less than on every single Cowboys playoff prize picks next year. Or maybe you want to take some more thens on some Niners prize picks, which I think is going to be the case against the Bucs, or the Packers, by the way, excuse me. I'll go more than Brock Purdy, passing yards, more than George Kittle, receiving yards. I mean, they threw it a bunch, obviously, but Ferguson actually played very well in that game, which, again, we knew was going to be a great matchup for Dallas, and they didn't do it like at all in the first half. It's out of one play. Because, the game plan was bad. Aaron Jones, less than rushing yards as well. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That link, again, is in the comment section and the description of today's show. So do you want Quinn back? Y or N? 54% now voting no. I get it. I'm not surprised by it. I think the reality of your situation for like the here and the now, you have two options. Oh, we can go down first. You're good. Two options. You're going to try to win games, or do you want to tear it all down? You can type W for try to win right now to the best of your abilities. Let's call it a 3-year window or whatever we want to call it. Or R for you want to tear it down. I think both are fine. What you can't do is just kick the can down the road and said, let's see. As you say, let's see, you're setting yourself up for failure. It will not work, which I spent a lot of time about. I don't want to go too more in depth in it, but that's where I'm at. So if you want to win now, like Johnny and Carlos and Steven and Christopher, okay. It's kind of the way I lean too. It's tough to fully commit to a teardown of a 12-win team. I get that. You got to be more aggressive than what you've been in previous years because your current path don't work. Michael, I think the only way you can justify bringing back Mike is if they are aggressive in free agency or trades for once. Agree? I actually agree. But that's also part of the problem here is you're down to 1 year. So coaching-wise, it's going to be tough to convince people. Genuinely, what your best argument would be, and you would never win the PR battle for it, would be if you want to replace Quinn, you have to extend Mike McCarthy. Because it's no different than recruiting in college. You can't have a lame duck college head coach. You're not going to get any recruits because he's not going to be there. You're not going to bring in a new good defensive coordinator because they know that he's not going to be there. Now, it's a bit blatantly transparent. I don't think it would actually work, which is the whole crux of the issue. If you're not going to extend Mike, then why is he here? Why are you doing the lame duck thing? That doesn't work. It doesn't work, period. Works worse in college, still a failure thing. So, what's your plan? I agree. You have to be more aggressive in free agency and trades. They haven't done that in a decade. Gambler Jerry, Wildcat and Jerry's dead. He ain't coming back. I wish he would. I would actually kind of like it if they just let the reins off of Jerry and said, go do it for a year, bud, and then we'll dial it back. Gives you a better chance. It's no guarantee. It probably won't work, but it gives you a chance. Gives you some hope. My mindset. Chris B, have weird feelings they won't extend Dak. If they don't extend Dak, it's also not going to work. Now, because in theory, I think what they would do is they would just kick the can down the road, which is better than not doing anything. Because there are zero viable paths to winning football games with a near $60 million cap hit at QB. And make no mistake, that was never their plan, was to have that. So they'd be reacting to legitimately what was one bad half of football. And going, now we can't do anything, we're just going to kick the can. And you set yourself up for, okay, there's no team control. Someone's going to offer him a massive deal. So you got to go win a bidding war. If you don't do it, you should honestly just tear it all down. That is where I'm at. You should know. You have to be able to make that decision. Do you want to go be aggressive and win with your top 10 quarterback and get the other supporting cast help you clearly still need on both sides of the football? Your defense was doo-doo water down the stretch, and your running game is still non-existent when you would really like it when your quarterback, I think, is clearly a little bit too amped up early on in big games to be able to lean on the ground game. And they can't. The running backs are averaging under 4 yards a carry in their losses on an 17-game sample size with 18 plus carries per game. They cannot run the ball. And Dak's not the superhuman freak to be I don't need a running game. Or I'm not even saying I'm not saying don't be run heavy. I'm saying you can't try to be run heavy and fail. And that's what this team does. It's insane to me. Gatlin, you think McCarthy will still do play calling? Absolutely. You can't not do it. You can't take the play calling away from the OC with the guise of, you know what, this is my last chance, I'm going to call the plays, and then go, actually, I get one more chance, and now I'm not going to call the plays. There's no way Jerry would allow it. There's no way Mike would allow it. Because if you're not having Mike call the offense, then again, why is he here? Now, there's a lot of things for why is he here, but that's where I'm at. Protect the Sun 1. Tom, I will give you a super chat if you Tanya Harding Mike McCarthy. It's not going to do anything. He'll still coach. I'm not going to get any darker than that, but that's not going to be enough. Carl says, Jerry has no choice. He's too old to reboot. This is his mindset. I don't have time for a bad time, you know? But they're also not aggressive enough to maximize it. So you're stuck where you've been stuck, where you're a good football team. You're actually a very good football team, but you're not a great football team. How are you going to get there? K-Dog, I have a feeling, I have every feeling in the book, but John Elway didn't win the Super Bowl until 9 years in. We know Dak and Mike and probably Dan. What do you need to get over the hump to the Super Bowl? I think you need to find a way to make your ground game effective, which it has been of all the things that have been bad for you in your losses, the single most consistent thing is you can't run the ball. And not that you're not trying to, it's that you try to and you can't. How many second down runs did they have against the Packers? How many of them were successful? The best ones when they gave the ball to Lamb and they do quarterback keepers. Like, the raw numbers look great, but the straight handoffs to the backs, it's bad. It continues to be bad. Your defense, everyone's mad about the run defense, as you should be. That wasn't even their biggest problem down the stretch this year. They got cooked through the air. Jordan Love destroyed them in 3 quarters of action. You know? Geno Smith was slicing and dicing them. This pass defense has actually not been good. I will have the numbers on the show. It's terrifyingly startling bad. AJ Medell, even Aaron Rodgers failed in the Mike McCarthy system. Should always be a red flag when the new guy that came in, Matt LaFleur, made it all a lot better overnight. All right, who do you want the Cowboys to draft? We'll do some round 1 draft targets. There are plenty of decent names that they were picking 24th, so it's always a little bit, tricky to figure out exactly who's going to be there when you're drafting that later-ish in the draft process. You know, there's might not be a true first-round guy or not, but that's kind of how you make it happen there. Who do you want the Cowboys to draft? Sound off for me in the comments. A lot more super chats coming in here. Will Marshall, don't feel good about this whole thing. Only thing would help you push all-in chips like the Rams, your agency draft, and with Catboy, I don't see it happening. It's not an accident that your most competitive teams this year are super aggressive. Like, there's clear and obvious trends in different phases of this game, whether it's personnel, coaching, or philosophy from your front office, that this organization will not do. It's like you're taking the ACT, trying to get a high score, and you're skipping one of the sections. You can still have a good score. You can start in whatever school you want to, but you're not gonna have the 33, you know? Chris B, Jerry's gonna make a splash to get fans back in. Let him loose. F it. When was the last Jerry splash? And don't tell me it was Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore were 5th-round picks. The answer was Amari Cooper, by the way, which they did to give their head coach every chance they had of making the team, of saving the team. And the same thing why they paid Zeke. They had, got to give Jason needs everything he can have. Didn't work. I would like them to do the splash because they need to do that. I forget what the exact stat was. Something like the last 8 Super Bowl winners have spent more guaranteed money on one player in free agency than the Cowboys' entire free agency class combined. These are trends that they refuse to engage in. Not Jimmy Chuck's burner. I don't know if this is a dumb question. How do you make Dak prove it, go all in without extending? seems impossible with his cap hit. Time to get creative. Well, you can't do it at 60. It is impossible. If you're going to have a $60 million cap hit for a quarterback, the guy might as well not be on your team, and you might as well be tanking and rebuilding because it is impossible. You know, you've had like 30s and stuff for other quarterbacks, and like Mahomes' number is too high for the Chiefs. They didn't restructure him because they're weird about it, and they're paying the price for it. Like if the Chiefs don't win, it's not Mahomes' fault. It's that they allowed a big cap hit for Mahomes and didn't build the team out properly. Like you do have to get creative. What you could do is just a tradable extension. Although he's already got the no trade clause because you screwed up 5 years ago when you didn't pay him the first time. This wouldn't even be a problem right now. But no, they drag their feet like they always do on contracts. They try to win every deal and they always lose them. A lot of philosophical coaching and free agency issues I have with this team. Draft, they're great. They will do a good job with the draft, better than most organizations. And they'll find talent. Extensions, coaching, they have issues. It's probably not an accident that those moves, not the ones done by or done mostly by your front office and the Jones boys. It's probably not an accident. From Sexy Pizza 88. Next thing we should incorporate design plays for Lance like the Niners did when he was behind Jimmy Garoppolo. Sure, if you want. It's never really been a McCarthy thing. I also say this. You have to have him throw it too. And Dak is a lot better than Garoppolo was. I mean, you can look what they did this year. As soon as Garoppolo got out of the 49ers system, the man fell apart. It just cratered. You can do some stuff with him. I want to see how he does in the preseason. That's very important for me because I want to know what the hell I have in him. He's barely played football in 3 years. Or no, even back to high school. He played like 1 year of college. It was really intriguing stuff. It's just, dicey. Cowboy 85 with Overshown. Dixon back and LV crew up in the air. Should we go defense heavy this offseason? Who you got your eyes on? Who you want to go for? Can I get someone like? Can I meet the Cowboys halfway and say, go sign Azeez Al-Shaair? Like you're not going to sign a Chris Jones, You're probably not going to break the bank for a Patrick Queen. But can I meet you halfway and still get an impact starter? Like, when was the last real impact starter this team signed? The answer is Jaron Kearse, or Malik Hooker, which they didn't think were going to be. They thought Kearse was going to be a special teams guy more than anything. They signed Hooker in August. Like, this team does not sign impact starters in free agency. I'd love to go get one of those guys. I'd love to explore the offensive line market. Sign someone better than Adoga to maybe replace Tyron Smith. Like, I don't know if they're going to do that. We'll have videos on that. I'll give you realistic names or potentially realistic names, but they have to break their own trends. They didn't do it with the head coach this year. Protect the Sun one. You just go all in on the offense line, help the run game and the pass game, defense, ball control, no more tight ends. I mean, look, don't spend another second round pick on a backup tight end, and trade your second too, so you don't waste it. Anyway, all in on the offensive line. Yeah, like I think if I think that you make a very strong argument that you can zig while others zag and have a ground game that you can lean on a little bit more. And even Houston's doing that a little bit more than you might expect with how good Stroud has been so far this year. They've been a little bit more run heavy than I would maybe prefer. But it's not based on the running back. I think, again, Tony Pollard was third in forced missed tackles after week 9 this year. And the offense was averaging 4 yards a carry. That tells me your offensive line and your scheme was bad. Scheme was bad. Change your scheme. Throw assets at the offensive line. Good things will tend to happen, I think. Chris B, we're in just a shitty spot. I've come to accept it. Yes. You are. Well, I don't even know if shitty's right. Like, shitty is like, I don't know. Bears might be in a shitty spot, for being honest. Like, the Panthers are in a shitty spot. That's a good example. They're in a bad spot. You're in a disappointing spot. Of like, you're good. There's about, 20 other teams that would love to be where you're at right now. Maybe 18 for the playoff teams. And it doesn't matter because you're not one of the top 4 at minimum. That sucks. That's really disappointing. All right, if you guys like the Cowboys Report, if you enjoy what we do, then like the video for me right now. We're at 74 likes, also 69 in supers. Nice. We're going to get to 100 likes here on the show. Likes are simple, easy, free to do, and allows us to continue to grow here on the Cowboys Report. All right, Pug Racer, don't see how the roster is better next year. I would agree with this. Look, I will do a perfect offseason plan. It's not nearly as ideal from that perspective. Like it's not perfect. It's not ideal. Like we're already past that point for me, and that's not good. But there are ways you can make it better. There are moves you can make. You're just not gonna necessarily like the way you have to get there. But there are moves, there are, things you can do. It's not great. Javon Bell, I don't know why we kept this garbage coach. I have come to the conclusion this team can't evaluate coaches. Think about it. When was the last good head coach hire? Wasn't Mike. Wasn't Garrett. Wasn't Wade. Had flashes of success. Your owner is still so traumatized by the mistake he thinks he made of firing Chan Gailey too early that he's given all of his extra coaches extra time. It's kind of how he's wired. Like they want to win their way, and they don't want to. I'm not going to leak it. The names that have been linked, if they had moved on, were not solutions. Legitimately, you were probably better off keeping Mike. The names that not have been publicly linked, but like the whispers and whatnot, they were not good answers. Not. I tweeted one of them. Chris B, better go all in because Washington Giants going to be good. I'm not convinced the Giants are going to be good. Daboll's got coaching issues. They still don't have a quarterback. The Commanders are no longer poverty. They are working their way up out of poverty. They've grabbed themselves up by their bootstraps. They've hired a great GM in Adam Peters, who I think is going to be great at least. I'm concerned they're going to land Ben Johnson, and they're going to draft a top 2 quarterback, and they're going to be a threat. You are blowing your windows here. Not Jeremy Chugg's burner. Stop caring about future cap. Rework every deal possible. Get Chris Jones possible. Mike Evans, draft 2 running backs. If we lose, at least we tried and then get the team. Jerry doesn't manscape. The good one, not Jeremy Chugg's burner. Look, I think if you want to win now, then yes. Like you should go be crazy aggressive. Or at least give yourself like a 3 to 4 year window. And then be aggressive and then tear it down. Or tear it down now. Which I can't do, and I'm convinced they're going to, is just kick everything down the line. They're not going to pay Micah, they're not going to pay Dak, they're not going to extend Mike, they're going to keep Dan, and they're going to kick the can down the line. It's going to be the exact same thing this year where you win 10-ish games, whatever games, and then you blow a game against a crap team. You go 2-4 against the above 500 teams. You lose in the wild card round on the road against probably a Shanahan defense that cooks or offense that cooks you again. It's the exact same thing, and you're just stuck in a worse spot than you would have been if you just made the decision. Yeah, you have to make one right now. And ever since Stephen Jones pulled the card away from Jerry about we're not taking Johnny Manziel, we are taking Zach Martin. And Jerry said, Stephen, hope you're happy. You can't play everything down the middle. Every move this team has made has been right down the middle. And draft-wise, it actually works really well. More often than not. Free agency-wise, coaching-wise, doesn't work. Doesn't work. Javon Bell calling it, we're not winning the Super Bowl next year. I don't even think you're going to win a playoff game next year. Maybe that's the. I'm trying to think of like the most. What is the most frustrating end of the season, isn't it they win a playoff game and then get just bulldozed in the divisional round? Isn't that the most Cowboy way of doing it? Crispy, who are the coaches that they were thinking? One of the names they were considering was going to be Mike Zimmer. Allegedly. Because that's what this team does. They're stuck in the past. One of them. They would have done a couple more interviews, but that would have been one of them. Still not convinced you don't just hire Mike as your DC if you do lose Dan Quinn. Which, hey, you can look at some of those years, and they were great in Minnesota. Out of the league since for 2 years and almost 3 years now, and defense fell apart with the Vikings too. Which, by the way, they had the timing been different. If these 3 head coaches had been available back when they hired Mike, they would have interviewed Dan Quinn, Mike McCarthy, and Mike Zimmer back when they first hired McCarthy. That's who. It was like they were. If Zim had been fired in Minnesota, I think he would have been the Cowboys head coach. Like way back when. Like that's like the Jones boys love Zim. But Mike won the playoff game. They stuck around and then they ended up going with Mike in the end. And remember, they also interviewed Marvin Lewis that year. Because Marvin is buddies with Stephen Jones from the time on the competition committee together. Because this team is unserious. Pug, Mike Who, Zimmer and Chris B. Mike Zimmer, you just going for all old guys. They just have their ways. Don't like it. In that case, I would have been, again, what's bothersome to me is I don't even know if they had hypothetically fired Mike. I don't know if they were even going to interview guys like Ben Johnson. Because they want an experienced coach. And you're destroying your pool. Like, it just, I don't think they can eval coaches. Not Jeremy Chuggs' burner. It's Battlehawk season, though. F. Stan Kroenke, caw. I like it. A.J. Medell. I believe he kept McCarthy for consistency. No, not for losing playoff games. To allow to stay in a scheme after 1 year of it, not a good enough reason. I don't know. Like, here's my mindset. Like, I've seen Dak have really good results, especially regular season-wise, under Garrett, under Linehan, under Kellen, under Mike. Like, there's been a lot of different, there's a common thread among all of them, but Dak's a smart, very high IQ football player, if we're being honest in our evaluations. Like, I think AJ's right, but like, it's just a bad process. It's a bad process. All right, coming up on today's live show, Dallas Cowboys news and rumors, including Dan Quinn updates here, a Cowboys mailbag, and 2024 NFL draft targets. Plus, if more supers come in, we can always continue the therapy session. It's not just therapy for you. It's therapy for me as well. We will get to Chris B. His super chat is part of the mailbag, by the way, so stay tuned for that one, Chris. It's all kind of live right here on the show. Let's check in on the latest for Dan Quinn, as the report from Ed Warder, ESPN, is that if Dan Quinn does not get a head coaching job, the Cowboys expected to bring him back as the defensive coordinator. And I can hear the collective groan from the audience right now. Quinn's defense, specifically down the stretch, was a nightmare. And I know many of you don't want him back, and I totally get that. But replacing him with your current head coaching situation of a lame duck is not necessarily easy either. Here's Quinn's initial round of head coaching interviews. Panthers on Wednesday, along with the Titans. The Commanders and Seahawks interviewed on Thursday, / is interviewing today. The Chargers tomorrow, they're probably getting closer to hiring Jim Harbaugh, in theory, than Dan Quinn is. And if you're a fan of those teams, you don't want Dan Quinn right now, do you? Because everybody saw that defense get absolutely smoked in every phase. Not just the run defense. The pass defense was even worse in that matchup, especially early on. He's a very tough sell to a fan base at this age. And here is why. Now look, it is a very cherry-picked date After week 13, such including week 13, the Seahawks game, starting that week. Ladies and gentlemen, your defense was a bottom 5 defense in football. Not in points, but in how they have stopped the opposing team from moving the ball and scoring and doing the things. The overall health of your defense was on life support. Expected points added. Now, you get big boasts if you take the ball away. If you're allowing a bunch of big yards and first down stuff, you lose points, right? You were 27th in EPA per play. You were 28th in pass defense. For as bad as your run defense was, it was actually about league average overall. Now, you had a terrible showing against the Bills and second half against the Packers, but you actually did not as bad against the run as I think the Bills game has instilled in our mind when you literally couldn't stop a nosebleed. You were 27th in success rate. When teams dropped back to throw against you, they had a 52% success rate, which is not just getting like a completion, but it's getting first downs, head of the chain stuff. 31st. Your run defense was also, I think, success rate, which kind of eliminates the high-end volatility of turnover stuff. Like, turnovers really help you in EPA. It's only still one play in success rate. You were terrible. You were a bottom-tier defense after week 13. And if you want to narrow it down to, hey, how'd you do against good offenses? All right, we can do that. Since Dak came back from his injury, the points allowed, a little bit different, but still, against those good offenses, I had set the filter to 16th or better. Ended up being all top 11 offenses. 31 against Green Bay, 40 against Jacksonville, 34 against Philadelphia, 19 against the 49ers, 42 against the Niners this year. The first two were the previous years. Rams 20th, Eagles 28th, Eagles 13. 35 against Seattle, 33 against Buffalo, 22 against the Dolphins, which you kind of survive by holding them to stops there. 20th against Detroit, 48 against Green Bay. Now, the offense shares some blame here too. Make no mistake about it. But in these games against good offenses, you are averaging 29.6 points per game allowed. That sucks. The offensive results with the same filters and rules, 26.1 points per game. You tell me what your bigger issue is right now. Look, the defense gets some credit for points scored on offense and vice versa. Sure. Not enough to change everything. Moving into the offseason, this is your number one flaw. Your defense has cratered. This so-called elite defense is not. And you got to figure out how you're going to get that fixed. And it is not a one or two piece solution, unfortunately. Now, do you want Dan Quinn back as defensive coordinator? Y for yes, N for no. It's the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Now, if you are voting yes, I get it. At the same time, replacing this is not an easy solution because this is not going to be an appealing job. Yes, you have Micah Parsons and Deron Bland and a couple all-pros on there. Yeah, that's all great. You are joining the hottest coaching staff in America, not from like they're all popular, but from they're about to get fired. No one's been more pre-fired in football history than Mike McCarthy this upcoming year. None of us think he's going to be the head coach in 2025. None of us. This is a lame duck head coach. So whether you fire Dan Quinn or he gets a promotion to a head coaching gig, which, okay, who's your guy? I think Joe Witt is the easy answer. I love me some Al Harris, don't get me wrong, but your pass defense fell apart too. And Witt is the more schematic guy. Harris is the technique guy. And Witt is ahead of Harris in the pecking order right now. Getting a big name, highly unlikely. Love to do it. Someone on a live show like, go hire the Niners or Ravens assistant. You're right. Why would they leave for the Cowboys job? They're going to be out of a job next year. So good thoughts, but the big name, that's the biggest name is Wink Martindale, right? Which I think he's overrated, but anyway, but he's still good. He's, are you going to come to Dallas? Be looking for another job again next year? Are guys like Mike Pettin, who have connections to McCarthy, or Mike Zimmer to your front office, are those guys real solutions? I don't think so, because you've put yourself in a really bad position by doing the lame duck thing with McCarthy. Instead of making a decision, you've just said, let's see what happens. And when you don't make a decision, the decision is made for you. And it's never the decision that you actually wanted deep down. Now, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. If you're looking to have some daily fantasy fun during the playoffs and, maybe move on from some of the trauma you've suffered this year, Prize Picks is the way to go. You can also do NBA picks all this regular season long. You got a few more weeks left of NFL Prize Picks as well. I did do one for the Niners and the Packers, a little three-player stat projection. I'm going more than Brock Purdy passing yards, more than George Kittle receiving yards, and less than Aaron Jones rushing yards. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. All right, we got a interesting and I think more clicky story than founded in good process. Bleacher Report has suggested the Cowboys trade for Alvin Kamara this offseason. And I think we would all agree your running game is a very large issue. And it's Alvin Kamara. It's a big name. Puts up big fantasy points in PPR leagues every year. Massive issues I have with this. The biggest of which, he's due $11.8 million in 2024. And then he's also due a whopping $24.9 in partially fake money in 2025. So are you looking to, pay Alvin Kamara more than what you paid Tony Pollard, coming off a year in which, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, Alvin Kamara is not the guy you remember. He was, in fact, Tony Pollard was actually better than him. And that's not even a high bar. Alvin Kamara averaged under 4 yards a carry again. He still offers you some decent pass-catching stuff, but it's all check down stuff. I mean, this year, he had 75 catches for 466 yards. Do you know how hard that is to do? To not bust any big games? 6 yards a catch. That's not good. So, Alvin Kamara, I get it's the big name. I'm concerned he's cooked. And what also blows my mind by the way, is part of this, Bleacher Report in this article did not specify what the picks would be. They said draft picks. Same author, different article, said the Chiefs should send a second-round pick for Alvin Kamara. What are we doing out here? Genuinely, BR, are you watching these teams play? Or are you just going based on vibes and names? Would you trade for Alvin Kamara? T for your trade for him. P for you would pass. It's a hard pass for me, but you guys can sound off in the comments. Bad idea. If you want to add an aging, declining running back, you can do that in free agency, pay a fraction of the cost, and not have yourself consume draft picks in the process, which you're already light on anyway. With that said, you do need to fix this run game. This run game is a very real problem. And to be clear, I am not saying you have to become this run-first football team that tries to establish it. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying in these games, you need, against good teams, you can't, if your defense is playing badly, you can't expect the quarterback to save everything. The Cowboys' ground game in the last 3 years, from running backs only, so I'm not doing quarterbacks, keepers, and the very effective receiver handoffs that you do, 3 years of losses. You got 17 total. 312 carries, 1,197 yards at 3.83 yards per carry. You have turned into a bottom 5 run offense, basically, when you lose football games. And it's coming on 18 carries a game. So it's not like you're not trying to run the ball. It's that you can't run the ball. It's not just the players. It's not just Pollard. It's not just the offensive line. Yes, they get blamed too. What I keep calling this tight zone scheme was terrible. It was not good. You had some success at one point this year doing that little Shanahan toss play that you go up the middle on. And then you just abandon it into December. Why? You didn't run you didn't go to the outside. Why? Do you not know your personnel? Are you committed to just trying to run it your way? Change that. And I would say invest in the offensive line. If you want to have a little bit more success running the football, I think offensive line is how you build that. Not a big sexy name at running back, but offensive line success. And I think there are a few quarterbacks in this league that can carry a team that has no run game or no threat of one or no support from it. It's guys like Mahomes, it's guys like Allen, or guys like Lamar that kind of create their own ground game too. Allen fits that same category. That's not one of them. That's not even like a mean thing to say. He's just not one of the freakazoid top 4 or 5, whatever it is. I mean, he sucks. But I'm saying if teams are going to dare you to run the football as they have in these games, and you can't, and you keep running on 2nd and 10, if the quarterback doesn't play at an MVP level on 3rd downs, this is the results. And then it's all the quarterback's fault, which I get. It's the Cowboys, it's the quarterback, it's football, it's fine. But it's not like it's just setting up for failure in the end. We'll talk a lot more about this stuff throughout the offseason, folks. We will be here every single day. I know many of you are upset, and I get it. I am not going anywhere. Hit that sub button for more free Dallas Cowboys YouTube videos. Let's talk defensive line free agency option here. PFF naming one free agent target for each team this offseason. They picked Grover Stewart, which I don't hate. And if you this would be a notable addition, and who am I to argue against a notable addition for a team that doesn't do anything like that? Stewart does help you against the run pretty significantly. I also don't know what you'll be doing with Mozzie Smith, which we'll come back to. There's a lot of weird stuff going on there. But when it comes to free agency, name a player who you want to sign. Any player in free agency, go ahead and vote for me in the comments. Now, Stewart's numbers are not necessarily eye-popping, but he's a run stopper. His numbers were down this year. He got suspended for PEDs, which was really unfortunate. Had a great year in 2022, 9 TFLs, 4 sacks. I think that maybe the 2020 campaign is more of what you would get. A couple TFLs, good tackle numbers. I think he'd help your run defense in a very nice way. Here was the argument from PFF. The Cowboys' run defense was exposed in the team's loss against the Green Bay Packers. While there's hope that first-round pick Mozzie Smith will take a step forward in 2024. They need help on the defensive interior. Stewart has been consistently good against the run and finished in 2023 with 24 tackles, resulting in a defensive stop, which PFF calls like you didn't allow a first down or you stopped them from being a successful play, like at or near the line of scrimmage. And look, your run defense needs help, clear as day. But the run defense wasn't why you got behind in that game. Jordan Love was destroying you. You actually had several good run stops. So they were under 4 yards a carry for the good portion of that game until second half comes. And frankly, I think your defense quit. I think they quit. And I think your coordinator made some terrible schematic decisions too. The second half run defense was cheeks. Also, I still don't know what the root cause of Mozzie Smith's weight loss was. You know, he was a 330-pound guy and then was playing somewhere between mid-290s and mid-300s, like 307 or something like that. I don't know if Mozzie was dealing with some stuff or if it was hey, we're going to play Higgins at nose tackles, let's try you at 3 technique, drop some weight, or if Mozzie went rogue and the team was like, oh, no. I don't really know. I think it's probably they clearly knew about it, and they weren't fighting him, so I guess they were fine with it. Doesn't matter what the root cause is. It's time for solutions. Make Mozzie fat again. You can't do the whole Tyrone Crawford drop weight, add weight, drop weight, add weight over and over and over and over again and expect things to be good. You drafted a nose guard. Let him be a nose guard. Make Mozzie fat again, because if your plan is to make him a 297-pound or a 307-pound 3 technique, it's not going to work. That is not who he is. So MMFA in the comments, make Mozzie fat again. To be clear, that is a positive thing. It's a body positive thing. It's not a bad thing. So spam it for me in the comments section. We got some good super chats in on this one. I'd say the Hawkeyes one, let's tie it into the sub-read for the mailbag. But also, just to be clear, shout out Hawkeyes for a $50 super chat. How about you go give me your beer bong? How about that? Let's have some fun here. Clayton, John Wall, all in there. Appreciate that. That's fun. I appreciate it. We'll do a little beer bong here because you know what? I deserve it. Oh, shoot. Also, Jeffrey, a $5 Venmo. I appreciate that, Jeffrey. Why does this feel like the Marvin Lewis Bengals? Good enough to make the playoffs, but not good enough to do anything once we get there. You know what's funny is I have said before the Joe Burrow arrival and before Mike Brown gave up team control, passed it off to his daughter, I have actually said before that the Bengals and Cowboys are not that dissimilar teams. So I'm glad I checked that, Jeffrey. Sorry we missed it at the start of the show, the $5 Venmo. It's because they are the same team. Because they are. And that's not fun. Tell you what, those Marvin teams had their Des caught it moment too. It was Kima Van Ohoffen taking out Carson Palmer's knee. And it's why you can't go low on quarterbacks anymore. There we go. Go ahead and show up Hawkeyes $50 super chat. Appreciate that, Hawkeyes. Ooh, yeah, make sure we get that bubble out of there. That'd have been bad. Cheers to you.
Here we go, $50 from Hawkeyes here. You two are great this season with the commentary. Thank you. Please enjoy dinner on me. Hashtag cancel Mike McCarthy. Appreciate that, Hawkeyes.
More in there. Hold on. Thanks, Hawkeyes. Appreciate that. Yeah, we'll do the rest of the mailbag here. We'll get that going right now. All right. Having fun today. Or at least not as much pain as previously. It is mailbag time. So 2 ways to get on the show. Number 1 is just super chat. Like Carl and Will and Chris and Hawkeyes and AJ all did. Appreciate that. Or you can skip the line, or you can simply leave the super chat. Or just do hashtag Cowboys. If you do hashtag Cowboys, you're in the queue, and it's up to producer Chris to bring your question up on screen or not. First up on today's mailbag from Richard Robinson. It's a super thanks. If Dan Quinn was focused on head coach interviews, that's still McCarthy's fault. He's got to get the whole team and coaches ready and consistently fails. I don't see this getting better. Bring Jimmy back. For the record, Jimmy Johnson is not a real solution, but a new Jimmy that's not him, I'd love to find it. They seem to only want to look at retreads, and that's not going to work. Also from Richard, this team is arrogant, delusional, and soft. Turpin and Lim planning victory parties, and Dak saying he was stunned to prove it. No mental toughness and not as talented as everyone thinks. I will say I was pretty stunned too, so I get that. But he's so right. If you don't know what he's talking about, Cavante Turpin and Sam Williams had planned a victory after party and had sent out that message before kickoff. Come on, guys. How bad of a look that is? Jeez. Unprepared. Ian Reed, replaced Big Mike. These all came in before the news of him saying, replace Big Mike with Harbaugh, Ben Johnson, Slowick, or Flores. All great names. They didn't do it. Jeffrey Dutton says, thank you. Thank you, Jeffrey. I appreciate that. You're seeing super thanks right now on the show. It is a feature on YouTube that allows you to donate outside of live videos. Click the thanks icon, edit your message to whatever it is, and send it in. We appreciate your support. Every super thanks will be a shout out, even if it's a bit outdated, which is fine because we want to give you guys the love. From Xavier Worthy Burner, I wonder if Big Mike would implement his old ideas and offensive scheme in the game plan so he could show up the Packers on the floor and have his show-off game. Because I noticed no deep balls, no outside runs. I know Gallup slowed down a lot, but I don't remember seeing a single go ball. There was one to Cooks, and it was the classic Cowboys go ball of we're feeling it. We got to take the shot play. I telegraph it. There were a couple seam balls to Fergie. What is the worst that can happen? It gets picked. You were already down by so much. I just wish I saw more effort on both sides of the ball. We need Belichick. Micah wouldn't be doing his podcast, and these players wouldn't be content with getting their effing ass handed to them on a platter. You got guys saying that they got time for it on social media 2 days after the playoff loss. CeeDee Lamb said, no one wanted it more than us. I think some guys on your team maybe didn't feel the same way. Also, I think it was less of Mike wanted to show up the Packers and more of it's a playoff game. He got tight and you want to do the stuff he's comfortable with, and that's the stuff they got away from before the bye. Coaching failure. Justin, I'm starting to lean toward running back next year, like with a new DC. Dak had his best season with Mike McCarthy. We'll have Diggs and Overshown back. If we can pick up a bruiser at running back, maybe we get another shot at a 1 or a 2 seed. Restructure Dak, sign as many who we can are up. I think it's a good idea to go into the near rebuild. Maybe we get a 2 seed and near MVP season from the quarterback. What do you think? I get it. And I think if you hadn't gotten blown out, and if you had made it to at least the divisional round, I think that would have been a much more popular idea. I think you have to make decisions here about what you're going to do with your quarterback. Not just restructure Dak. It is time to pay him or rebuild. Because if you're trying to win now, you are not finding a better quarterback option. It's not happening. It's not realistic. It's not feasible. So what would you rather do? And I think both these options are fine with me. I'd rather that than just like do the same thing and expect different results, you know? W for win now, R for rebuild. It's the pinned comment on today's video. If the ad comes on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. From Marcus Arnold, thanks. This, by the way, came true. I don't think Jerry's going to fire Mike. He nailed it. I don't blame Mike or Dan for loss. The offense has had slow starts and still won the game. The problem is we haven't played safeties and linebacker slots. The dam finally broke. It's a failure in team building, and the person that builds the team is the GM. We failed for 29 years because the GM has not changed in that time. Also rowdy, but also true on this part. You started slow against Tampa too. The difference was your defense played well against the not great offense. The Bucs defense was better than their offense last year, by the way. And then the quarterback settled in and then cooked them. And the same thing actually kind of happened in this game against the Packers. It was just too little, too late. And it was even maybe a worse start with the bad interceptions, which you can't have. But honestly, if your defense had played well in that game, the way your offense got going in the second half, it could have been Chargers-Jags. That's not to excuse a terrible first half effort. It is unacceptable what happened in that game. But I think Marcus is onto stuff here. The defense never showed up. The offense eventually did. And the GM keeps making the same mistakes over and over again. From Steven, a couple of fun questions to lighten the mood. First, who lays bigger eggs, ostriches or the Cowboys in the playoffs? My answer is the Cowboys because they're stadium-sized. There you go. Steven says Aubrey's an alien. If Aubrey's an alien, what is our punter then? He's a good punter. That's what I got. Don't pay punters big money either. Punters, though, are less head cases than kickers, so they're a little bit more stable year after year. From Ian Reed, whatever it is, eat Dak $60 million next year if he earns an extension. Great. If not, give the new coach a chance to get his guy. I just want to make my decision now. Because if you are like, I don't know if Dak's the guy, okay, it's fine. Then you should just blow it up. Because you're not going to have success with $60 million. Like, if your quarterback on a $60 million cap hit does exactly what he did this season, the supporting cast is not going to be as good. You should pay him. But if it's the same playoff success, no one's going to want to, and I don't blame them either. So I think you need to make your decision now. Because why wait? What are you going to benefit from waiting? From Hawkeyes, $50. Thank you, Hawkeyes. You two were great at the scene with the commentary. Thank you, and please enjoy dinner on me. I do appreciate that, Hawkeyes. Look, we will be here all off-season as well. Not quite the same as the watch parties, but we'll still have weekly live shows for you. We'll still have updates. We'll still have news. We'll do free agency specials, do NFL live draft coverage as well. It's my baby. Hit that sub button for more free Dallas Cowboys YouTube videos. Chris B., head coach next year is Jason Witten, Dion, Zimmer, or Marvin Lewis. The shitty part is I can't rule these out as options. I will say that I can rule out Dion. It's not going to happen. Dion doesn't want to be an NFL head coach. The things that make him a potentially successful college coach are not the things that make him a good NFL head coach. Let him be in college. And I think he can have a lot of success in college. I'm still in on the Dion train. but not as a head coach. Chris B, I swear if they fire Mike during the season next year, there's no benefit. There's no, just let it play out. Don't risk the new guy coming in and winning 2 games, helping your draft stock. Chris B, Kamara trade makes sense. It's a bad idea for a bad franchise. There we go. Trading for Alvin Kamara is a bad idea. There's no on-field and contractual reason that it actually makes sense for you. Now, today's show, once again, is made possible by Prize Picks. They are daily fantasy made easy. All you got to do is pick 2 to 6 player stat projections, more than or less than on said stat projections. Do the flex play, by the way. You just got to get 2 out of 3 right, 3 out of 4 right. It's a lower return, but better chance of actually getting them correct. Here's my NFC wildcard Packers, or NFC divisional round, Packers-Niners Prize Picks. Give me more than Brock Purdy passing yards, more than George Kittle passing or receiving yards, and less than Aaron Jones yards on the ground. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. Will Marshall keeping it 100. As fans, yes, we deserve a better product, but we are our own worst enemy. If Jerry looked out and saw empty seats, real change would be made. I think Will is correct, but we're Stockholm syndromed. And you could find a way to not go, and we everyone watching, everyone on sub could not go. There's still enough out there. We're Stockholm syndrome too far. It is the downside of being the most popular franchise. No matter what, they're going to be there. Sucks. Carl Coleman. It may have been personnel with Quinn, where he's in safeties as linebackers, which is true. And maybe you feel differently if DeMarvion Overshown didn't get hurt this year, and Van Der Esch didn't get hurt too. But it's also on the DC to make adjustments. And he did show flashes of doing that. Like, he showed they ran that bear front, where they used some of those 3-4 principles, which, by the way, everyone wants to do 4-3, 3-4 stuff. Like, the 4-3 under and over is the same thing. There's no difference. Like, you have to be able to do the things. You kept doing too high safety stuff against 12 personnel. That doesn't make any sense. So, yes, personnel's a factor. Hey, so too was the way you played and the way you deployed your personnel. Jordan says take Jeremiah Trotter, the Clemson linebacker, in round 1. I don't love it. We will do draft targets, by the way, on the channel soon. I like the player a lot. There's several linebackers I like, but I think if you take a linebacker in round 1, you are drafting for need. I do not think it'll be the best player on the board. I think the guy you could get in round 1, A, could be there for you in the second round. And B, the difference is very minimal because there is some very solid, day 2-ish linebacker talent that I am down to add. I like Trotter. He's a good player. He'll be in my top 3, I would guess, very early on, of course, linebacker rankings, but I would rather draft a more premium position. I think he's going to be a better player, more importantly, than a linebacker in round 1. Who do you want to draft in the first round? Any player, any position, sound off for me in the comments right now. Gerald, I think Benson from Florida State is the best back in the draft. Trey Benson, I probably would agree. Also not worth a round 1 pick. I think day 2, early day 3, kind of like a linebacker, that's going to be your sweet spot. John Wall, pair character, doing a shaka sign with his hand, saying, cool. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. It's the emojis that they don't come through. Jose Ruiz, who do you believe the Cowboys will be back from pending free agency season, considering they love retaining talent? It'll be a full video. I think Tyron Smith will come back if he wants to play. I don't think he's going to leave. I think he enjoys it here. They'll bring back some guys. We'll do the full video, but you're going to make some changes too. Chris B, this better be a fun draft. Wide receiver, cornerback, O-line for this BS. Needs to be a good draft. It needs to be a draft that helps you in 2024. It cannot be a developmental defensive tackle and a backup tight end with your first 2 picks. Not a way to win games when you're trying to win games now. Eric Bobbitt, Cowboys fans should mutually part ways with the Cowboys. I'm not watching a single game next year, but I will watch you guys. I would argue, a very favorable for me solution. Don't watch the games. Just watch us. Cowboys don't get credit for the views. We do. That is my compromise. So also, then I don't get fired. From Ryan, move back to a 3-4. In general, I think the 3-4, 4-3 stuff is very much overblown. You can ask. You're in nickel. You know, teams have been in nickel as the dominant personnel on defense since like 2017 or 16, something like that. Like that's when it flipped to 50%. So you've been in nickel for half a decade. Like that is the base defense. Now, if you want to have your heavy personnel look be 3-4, I'm in. And they did some of that with Dan Quinn this year. Because again, you know, your 4-3 under front is not any different than your 3-4 front. It's the same. It gets a little bit overblown. You have the nose guard if you make Mozzie fat again. You have personnel to fill those typical 3-4 spots. It's just, are you going to run it at the proper times? And are your box players going to read and react properly? I'm out there watching, and not to be mean to Damone Clark, but I'm out there watching Damone Clark just run the wrong way. That's not being safeties at linebacker. It's that your number one typical linebacker, who's like 240, by the way, isn't in the right spot. The instincts weren't there. That's concerning to me. So what's your confidence level in the Cowboys right now? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1, the low end. 10, the high end. Chris B, is it possible to extend Dak maybe only 2 years, not 5? Does Dak want to do it? Because Dak has all the leverage in the world. Let me be more specific. His agent has all the leverage in the world. They can play hardball if they want. Because guess what's going to happen? Dak can have the exact same year he did this year, maybe even a little bit worse, where he's pro war but not all pro. And the checkbooks they're going to be throwing money at Dak Prescott like he's on the dance floor. Because other NFL teams are desperate for what you have. Doesn't mean it's going to work here with this regime and this situation with Dak, and that's fine. But other teams would love it. They would love it. They would happily make him the highest paid quarterback ever. That's why you messed up 5 years ago by not doing the deal when you should have done it. You would have never been in this spot, and you've set yourself up for failure because you don't make the aggressive move when you need to. A.J. Madell, running scheme and O-line have to be fixed before expecting any back to thrive. I completely agree. That's why I don't want to pay backs big money or draft them super early, because they're too dependent on the supporting structure around them more so than other positions. Chris B, Tom, your best guess for head coach next year. Old, retread, new. It's a retread. They weren't going to look at newer guys. They were going to do the retread route. So until they don't do that, it's like winning the postseason. Until they prove me wrong, I'm going to base it all on the previous seasons. Lance Dunbar's burner, purely for the LOLs. What ex-Cowboy likes to become a part of the Cowboys coaching staff? I'll go first, myself. The correct answer here is Sean Lee. I would love to have Sean Lee as my linebackers coach. Shit, I might make him DC. Like, I would love to have Sean Lee on the staff. And that's not even for the LOLs. Dead serious. I think he'd make a great coach if he wants to do it. All right, one word. How you guys feeling right now? You're still in your 24 hours of sadness or mourning or frustration or disappointment or whatever. So what's your one word for how you're feeling right now? Whatever's a good one. Hydra says Sean is one of the smartest linebackers ever. Yeah, he was. That dude's out there mid-game correcting the defensive coaching staff like this doesn't work. You're asking me to be in two places at once. It's impossible. This is a bad design. They're like, oh shit. He was so smart. If Sean Lee had stayed healthy, I still have his jersey, man. If Sean Lee had stayed healthy, he would be in the same vein as a Luke Kuechly. He was that good. He was so good. He was so good. I see frustrated, uninspired, and flaccid. So yeah, there we go. We're going to move to some draft target stuff here. Final segment of today's live show. If you guys want more NFL draft videos for the Cowboys, since they actually do things in the draft, then like the video right now. It's free, it's simple, it's easy, and it leads to better results for us here at Chat Sports. Help me feed my baby girl Olivia by liking today's video right now. Today we're taking a look at the top round 1 draft targets for the Dallas Cowboys in 2024 with that number 24 overall selection. And I will make note, this list will change, especially drafting outside the top 20 players. There's stuff that we get that's revealed later on. The list ebbs and flows. I've nailed some picks in previous years. When we did this, when they took Tyler Smith, he wasn't even on here. So keep that in mind. All right, I want to begin with linebackers. And I think if you're like, what do you need the most? You can make a real argument linebacker is your number 1 need. Because you didn't get good play this year. There were injuries. You couldn't stop the run. You couldn't cover tight ends, the seams, etc. You were out of position. Your big guys didn't fit well. And I do think this linebacker class is actually pretty good. Jeremiah Trotter. I think Edrin Cooper might be my number 1 guy when it's all said and done. We'll see. I know you guys, trauma alert, trigger warning. I know you don't want more Michigan players, but actually Junior Colson is the exact type of linebacker you're looking for, but it's Michigan, so I get it. Cedric Gray's a fun player. Jalen Ford. Peyton Wilson is such a Cowboys linebacker because he's coming off of injuries. The Notre Dame guy, I'm just forgetting his name. He's a good player. But I don't know if there's a real round 1 guy at linebacker. I think the guy you would have there in round 2 is just as good / would be the exact same guy. So yes, I want to go linebacker, but I am unconvinced that linebacker is the route you want to go in the first round. I would rather wait on that front. So what position do you want to take in round 1? As your votes come in, by the way, there are no running backs on this list. None of them are worth a first-round pick. You can find one day 2 or even early day 3. Let's start with the offensive line. Where have you had your most success drafting in the first round? O-line. What do you need this year? O-line. Several players in a very good class up front that I like for this group. First up is Amarius Mims, who spent most of his time at right tackle. The concern here is he's all upside. He could be a franchise even left tackle, but he hasn't played very much. He's played less snaps in his career than some of these guys played in a season. But the traits, when he's been out there, oh man, he's good. But are you going to gamble on the upside pick? Same is true for Tyler Guyton. I would not even be shocked, by the way, if one of these 2 guys ended up being tackle 3 off the board. Guyton's run blocking needs work, which fits your current mold up front on the offensive line. Didn't allow a sack this year. Again, predominantly a right side player. I think the athletic traits for Mims and Guyton say, hey, he could definitely be a left tackle. It's why they're on this list. Now, next up is Jordan Morgan, the tackle out of Arizona, who isn't getting a ton of buzz right now, but I'm trying to learn my lesson from the Tyler Smith miss, right? Really good results, by the way. Again, these are all per PFF because no one else does offensive line stats, so I do what I can there. 2 sacks allowed to hit, 13 hurries, better run blocking grades there. I'm at the risk of repeating myself here. It's a really good offensive line class. Who do you want the Dallas Cowboys to draft in round 1? I'm sure you guys have names in mind. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. I think a name that makes so much sense for this team is Graham Barton, the offensive lineman out of Duke. Now, he didn't play as much this year. I thought he was better last season. 2 sacks allowed, 9 hurries, a solid run blocking grade as well, which again, it's PFF, so whatever. He played left tackle at Duke. I think he's going to shift inside to left guard or center, which, oh, by the way, again, as we sit here in January, could be needs for you. One of them will be, whether you or left tackle will be, depending on what you want to do with Tyler Smith. I think you can set yourself up, if you do the offseason right, to getting a great offensive lineman in the first round and filling out that spot. Another name that I think makes sense for you is Troy Fontenot out of Washington. Also a left tackle, I think going to kick inside to guard in the NFL. His build, his play style fits well there. Not a great run blocker, although the Huskies' offense was all pass pro, or a lot of pass pro, so that's fine for me. But again, offensive line class is so good. I'm not even going to mention Joe Alt and Olu Boshin. Those guys aren't going to get to you. I don't think J.C. Latham gets to you. I'm not convinced Taliese Fuaga gets to you, but guys like Kingsley Suamaitai might be there for you. That's a fun player. Patrick Paul might even get to round 2 for you. We'll get back to Jackson Powers Johnson in a second, by the way. If you want to help fix your run blocking, by the way, Fuaga. Now, he is a right tackle at Oregon State. You could try him at guard, which I'm fine with if you want to experiment with your offensive line stuff. They were basically 50-50 run-pass stuff at Oregon State. Great run blocking results, right? And then there's Jackson Powers Johnson. Now, is he going to be a top 24 player for me? I don't think so. Still very early in the process, though. But this is awesome. He got beat one time in pass protection. Now, to be fair, the Oregon offense is a Mickey Mouse offense. Like they are not airing the ball out downfield. They're not doing things of like normal offensive dropbacks. Like that's not what they were doing. But he didn't get beat. And if you're trying to find your new Frederick, not saying he's going to be as good, that's a logical name for me. Now, we will have plenty of NFL coverage for you. Free agency, we will have mock drafts as well, probably next week. Cut candidates and more, so make sure you guys are subscribed. All right, defensive line prospects here. Jerzon Newton is an undersized, under-length defensive tackle, but very impactful. Leonard Taylor is more upside hype, which you just did, but at nose guard with Mozzie Smith. I love the Texas boys. I think Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy are both very good football players. And the issue I run into here is Sweat is a nose guard. You can't draft nose guards in back-to-back first rounds. You just can't. I get we're mad at Mozzie Smith. That's fine. You can't do it. That's not how to build a football team. And this is the founder of Fatties Only saying that. So Newton and Murphy actually do intrigue me if you want to go defensive line in round 1. Taylor, I've seen a lot of buzz around him. I was fairly whelmed, but the upside's there. But I also don't want to do another developmental piece. Like it's just kind of let's check in again like in day 2 or something on him. Now today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. You can go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. It's daily fantasy made easy. 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch those winnings roll in. prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS. Again, that link is going to be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Fantasy football is not really a thing, but daily fantasy is, even in the postseason. 3 edge rushers I want to mention here, by the way. Dallas Turner, Liatu, Latu, and Jared Verse. All 3 guys have a pretty darn good chance of being off the board, but if they're not, you want to have that conversation. My pick would be Latu. The numbers bear it out. The film, I think, study bears it out as well. The medicals might not, which Dallas is very aggressive with in general. I think all those guys, if you're going to have a rotation, because eventually you have to replace DeMarcus Lawrence, certainly makes it intriguing. And it's tough to be mad if you're drafting the premium spots, right? Quarterback, offensive tackle in particular, pass rusher, corner, receiver. You're drafting those high-impact spots. The results that normally end up being pretty good. Let's talk receivers then. You're not going to get Marvin Harrison Jr. You're not going to get Malik Neighbors, and you will not be getting Romadunzi on this team. They're going to be gone for you. Keon Coleman, though, might be there. Bigger body receiver, not the same athletic juice as others, or the guy we'll talk about him next here, his body control. The ability to win at the catch point is remarkable. You want a red zone threat, a guy that's going to go win you jump balls? That's Keon Coleman. He put up really good numbers with average to maybe flat out bad at Michigan State quarterback play. I actually like Travis, but he's not He's not going to go an early round pick guy. He's good. He's a great college guy. He's not a great NFL guy. Like, Coleman was a good big-time playmaker. And he might end up as wide receiver 4 for me. Or receiver 5, excuse me. Because Brian Thomas Jr., you want to make a splash and be sexy and have fun in the first round and get the fans hyped? This might be your guy, if he's even there. Size, speed combo, NFL teams love. He's 6'4" and is probably going to run 4.4s or maybe a little bit lower. Never going to be a real yak machine, but, adding speed is not a bad thing. And tall speed is valuable. Put up great numbers this year for LSU. He's the other LSU wide receiver, and he had an awesome year. 68 grabs, 17 scores, part of that Heisman Trophy weaponry for Jaden Daniels. Like, he was awesome. He was awesome. And it's a great receiver class in general. 6 guys here that I would guess go somewhere between your pick in round 1 and your pick in round 2. I would guess. But that good class means guys get pushed down. A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worth from Texas. I like Xavier Leggett a lot. He was fun. He's a 1-1, but he was fun for South Carolina. Lad McConkey, Jalen Polk, Troy Franklin. You want to trade down, get some assets? Get one of those guys. Be honest with me here, folks. What's your confidence level in the Dallas Cowboys drafting? 1 to 10 is your scale. Sound off in the comments section. Now, because you've got Trayvon Diggs coming off of an ACL, and Deron Bland is not necessarily guaranteed a contract long term, and you got 2 free agents, I actually do want to mention corner here. And it's not a great class for a top 10 corner, but top 25 class is pretty good for a corner. Both Bama guys, Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry. McKinstry would be a great fit with Diggs, by the way. And Bland, Diggs, Bland, and Kool-Aid, or Arnold in the slot if you want to do that too. Nate Wiggins is a fun piece. Cooper DeJean at Iowa is a play every spot in the secondary. Quinyon Mitchell had a great year from Toledo. I know corner we don't think of as an immediate need. Chance the best guy, at least on my board, maybe their board, is also a corner. Before we go, we do need to have the quarterback conversation. Not all of you are going to like it. Some of you love it. That's how this goes. The Cowboys, in theory, should have made their decision already. So if they already have, great, you can just end the video. If they have not made their decision, depending on when you're watching this, you actually have to look. If you have not extended Dak Prescott, by the time the draft rolls around, you have to consider the quarterbacks. So would you draft a quarterback early? D for draft or P for bats? Because you can't tag Dak. Can't do it. There's no control anymore. Go vote for me in the comments section. And here's the rub. Jaden Daniels ain't going to be there. Caleb Williams ain't going to be there. Drake May ain't going to be there. Like, the options that are feasible for you are J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix. And those guys aren't going to be upgrades in year 1. And there's a better than likely chance they will never be upgrades for you. I think McCarthy, given his age and skill set, is the most intriguing. But that's a risk. Make no mistake. He shows flashes, but if you weren't the owner, I might get you fired, right? Michael Penix, I think, can be a low-end starter, but he's not good out of structure yet. Great game against Texas, terrible against Michigan. There's massive medical concerns. I'm not taking him round 1. McCarthy's not going to have a round 1 grade for me. I know there are people who like Bo Nix, and to be very clear, he was 1,000 times better and more fun to watch than he ever was at Oregon. The arm's pretty solid. The mobility is certainly there. He's as old as Trey Lance is. That's kind of a red flag. And the Oregon offense was fake. It's a fake offense. He had 2,000-plus passing yards on screens or passes inside of 10 yards. Over half of his production came on those plays. We make a big deal about, hey, J.J. McCarthy, there's very few real NFL throws to judge on because there's so much play action and stuff and not taking shots downfield. J.J. McCarthy had more passes beyond 20 yards than Bo Nix did. Nix had 130 screen attempts. Do you know how insane that is? That's not a real offense. And it works so well in college, But I have a very tough time like going, this is my solution. Like when it's just a screen and heavy offense, like talking about 130 screen attempts total. McCarthy threw 332 passes all year long. Like that's not these guys all have massive question marks. So to take one with a head coach who probably isn't going to be here next year isn't the route I would go. If your front office is convinced he's a franchise guy who's a top 10 grade on your board, okay. I'd be surprised if that's how it all broke down. There's traits for all these guys, but if you're going to do it at quarterback, do it right. I don't think this is doing it right. So do you want Dan Quinn back as head coach? Why for X? Someone said Joe Milton, by the way. The human catapult is not going to be a good option for you. Someone said Penix is duct taped together. It's very mean. It's also not wrong. It's had 4 surgeries. The end of his season. Chris B., when you're dropping your first mock draft, probably next week would be my guess. We'll see if there's more chaos stuff. Gerald says, what about Jordan Travis in the second? Oh. Not taking a guy coming off one leg that also was never going to be a top 100 pick anyway. I think Jordan Travis is tough as nails. I love his attitude. He's a day 3 quarterback, but I already have one of those in Trey Lance right now. So, Jose Ruiz, why not move Smith to left tackle and draft a guard? Bring back Tyron as a rotation piece. I agree. Or even just draft a guard and draft a tackle and place him with the guard. Like I think you can set yourself up to keep Tyron Smith on an incentive-based deal, and because he's not going to stay healthy, gives you an option at both tackle spots if the young guy's not there yet. Gives you some flexibility, gives you depth that you don't really have, and then you can take the best lineman this year, whether that's a left tackle, left guard, or a center. Boom, flexibility. The Cowboys love that anyway. Chris B. Can't take a quarterback with McCarthy as a lame duck coach. I agree. Now, I will say, this organization's a little bit different because the GM's not going anywhere. So, the GM says, this is my guy. They'll go find him. They'll find a coach that fits it. Given their path, they'll find a veteran, which I don't love at head coach. All right, we have free Cowboys videos for you here all season long. YouTube.com/@CowboysTV. No need for the loop today. We'll go ahead and sign off here and let you guys go about your business. News, rumors. We'll have more videos. We'll have a Sunday video for you too. We'll be in for the Chiefs-Bills watch party in the Chat Sports channel, but we'll have a video for you that morning as well. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out.